Welcome everyone to Talking to People Who Talk to Animals, and today I have Tim and Tanya Bothams with me, all the way from Gympie in Queensland. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Sue, for inviting us.
Thanks, Phil. God, that word sounds funny when people say gimpy.
How is it? I'm sorry, I butchered it. How do you pronounce it? How do you
No,
say
that,
it?
that was right.
It's right. It just sounds funny when someone says it that it doesn't say it all the time. It sounds like you come from a different planet.
I do come from a different planet, I wanted to, because you guys are people in my life, like I wanted to do some conversations with people that, I know have a different reality with talking to animals. And you two are both people that definitely are people in my life that I know that have that relationship with animals in a really different way. And so I wanted to ask you both, like, where did that sort of start for you? Like, did you both grow up around animals, and what was that like? What was your first interactions with animals like?
Well, you go first if you want.
Yeah, well, I obviously grew up on a dairy farm, Sil. So, and I don't know why, but for some reason I always loved animals. I always wanted to sort of touch them and hold them, and I never realized that a lot of animals actually didn't want that close connection with you. Like chooks, when I was a young kid, because I loved them so much and wanted to hold them and have an energetic connection with them, I chased them around the farm so much and actually killed quite a few because I ran them into the ground.
Oh, that's a terrible way to start.
No, but I'm just saying, well, that Sue will ask me when was my first connection with animals. So, like, I think I was only 5 years old, Sue, but it came from wanting to connect with them and wanting to know more about them and wanting to hold them, and you know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
But at that age, you know how you're a bit unaware, and with chooks, they'll just sit down and die. And if you chase them as much as I did, that's what happened. But yeah, so living on a farm, it's probably one of those things where you just naturally have, because you have to have that connection with animals, because it's basically where your money comes from, and you can't ignore an animal when it's actually giving you an energy that there's something wrong with it, because it'll die and cost you a lot of money. So it was just one of those things where we just naturally did have that connection with them, because it basically put food on our table. So
there we
That's-
go. Leo's like,
Yeah.
sorry,
That's really different. Oh, right. Yeah, of course.
It's like, oh, you're talking.
Yeah. Cool.
So you know what I'm saying?
That's
So like it was sort of it paid for us to have that connection with them, because like Dad milked 100 cows and we knew all those cows individually, and you just knew when there was something wrong with them. And if you ignored that awareness that you got, it never ended well usually.
yeah.
It either cost you a lot of money for getting the vet out. Anyway, I'll let you go.
I was just gonna say, it's such a different, like, to have that awareness of all of those animals, but including them in that you're also relying on them and they're also relying on you. It's like there's probably not that many people that have that connection with animals where it's like such a two-way street in terms of the contribution.
Well, that's a great way to put it, Sue, because I never looked at it that way. Like, they did rely on us just as much as we relied on them, because we took away a lot of their natural ways of taking care of themselves. Like, we took away a lot of the herbs and stuff where they'd naturally go and eat if they had a problem, and we fed them foods that was not necessarily good for them, that caused problems in their body. So we took a lot away from them. So they did rely on us to actually look after them, because we took away the ability for them to fully look after themselves, like wild animals. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah. I do. And so, because I mean, I love these conversations, and I know that you have both a lot of awareness of like the way that the earth and the land and the things that grow on the earth can also like support animals, and the way that animals can also support like the earth. And you know, I think that's something that like a lot of us have been really sort of removed from. And you know, you guys are really, every time I talk to you, I always get really inspired about the different possibilities that are actually available with the animals and the earth, and us as well, you know, and what part we can all sort of play in that, I guess, ecosystem.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grow up with any animals. So I actually lived in town and we were not allowed pets or anything like that. So I had no animals, but I absolutely loved them. So every time, you know, I loved reading. So they always gave me books about animals and things like that. So I loved animals so much. So I think that's probably to our poor Tim's detriment now, because we have so many animals now, because I just love them so much.
So you were like the kid that wasn't allowed to have sugar and then got let loose in the candy store.
Yeah, that's probably a good way to say it. But in saying that, like I had a lot of friends that had farms and had lots of animals and things like that. So I actually grew up thinking I wanted to be a vet. So you know, all my friends had a lot of farms and things like that, and they knew I loved animals so much. So that was probably lucky too for me. But yeah, we've got so many now, so it's made up for it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe you could let us know a little bit about what you actually have on your farm. But I also want to ask you, what's like your first memory of like talking to an animal, or just that recognition that communication was there, you know, sort of beyond any doubt in your world. What was that first kind of interaction like for you both?
Probably what came up for me then was when my grandma used to have chooks, but she just had little suburban chooks in the backyard. And I remember going into her chook pen, and lots of sparrows and little birds would come and eat the chook feed. And I remember sitting in there and catching a sparrow. Like I got it to jump into my hand, and I caught it. I caught it. Well, it just jumped into my hand, and I was patting it, and I thought that was so amazing. And I had it, and I took it into my grandma's house, and and they all got mad at me because they were like, "It's got lice. It's, you know, it'll have some disease or whatever." But I was so proud of myself that I was like, I think I was probably about 5 or 6. I was so proud of myself that this sparrow had come into my hand, because like they're wild and you can't even get close to them. And they were like, "Oh, it'll have lice. Put that away." So that's probably one of my first things. And I was like, but it came into my hand. I was like so excited. But yeah, they dismissed that and was like, "Oh, it's got something wrong with it." So yeah, I was so excited about that. A sparrow.
I like it. How about you, Tim?
Mine was probably more so snake sore, because on the farm that I grew up on, we had a lot of deadly snakes, and my mum and dad were just paranoid about us being bitten by snakes all the time, because we used to roam the farm and go exploring, me and my brother, and back then we didn't wear shoes. And it was funny, my grandfather, he was always on the farm, he lived in town, but he always came out, and he said to us one day, he said, snakes will always tell you when you're coming near them. And I sort of said, "Oh, yeah, whatever." And then I realized after being out in the bush enough times, you'd always see a snake, but you'd basically get a sense that it was there before you actually saw it, and you'd look up and the thing would be taken off in the other direction. And I realized that it was the energy that I was picking up of the snake before I actually saw it. And my grandfather was right. The snake is actually, it saw you first because they're so naturally aware. and they pick up the vibration of your feet. And I realized that, if you actually listened and was aware of that energy, it could save you from being bitten. So that was my first probably connection, and realized that there was an energetic connection between humans and animals.
Yeah. I had a similar situation recently where I was down at the beach and went to like walk up to the sand dunes along this path, and there was a snake there. And every time I've had that, it's almost like a bit of a shock, and I'm like, oh, like it's a bit of like, and that tends to be, I guess, how the snakes let me know that they're there, and I sort of stop dead in my tracks. And
well, it's funny, that shock, Sewell, is you're picking up the energy of the snake that's actually scared of you.
Right.
That's what I perceive it as, anyway.
Well, I think too that they have such an energy that is quite aggressive, their energy as well. So sometimes, because I know, like, we had a brown snake here up at the house just the other day as well, and you can just, like, I was in our room and I was like, oh, and then I looked out the window and I see it like in the back garden, and I was like, oh, there's a big brown snake. But you sort of get that energy, like it's got like a bit of an aggressive energy, but I'm saying aggressive, but it's probably not aggressive, but it's quite dominating sort of thing. So if you are listening, you can pick it up. And
yeah, sort of like an aggressive presence in a way, like it's there and it knows it's there, it knows what it's doing, and it's like it's not mucking around, that kind of a thing.
Yeah. And if you're listening, you'll get it. And it's, definitely. Sometimes it is a big shock to see them because, like, they're so amazing.
Yeah.
I saw that one on your story.
Yeah, that was the one, and it I actually just said to it, look, we're not going to hurt you, like we're just here to walk through, but like take your time, we're not going anywhere. And it started to actually, it was like exploring this little path, and it was just going back and forth. Like, I'd never seen a snake do that before. It looked completely relaxed, and me and Silas were just watching it, and it was actually really amazing. And then it just moved on, and we were able to walk through, and I sort of felt safe, like I knew it wasn't there anymore. So I think it also kind of lets you know when it's gone too, which is helpful. But cool. So I guess I want to, because so you guys are very different with the way that you function with the land, and it's like, can you talk to some of the ways that you have used that, your knowledge and your awareness with animals on the land, to create like something different, and sort of what that's created for you and the animals, and the land that you're on?
Well, where did you want to start, Tim? Well, it's like we started off with, so it's that most people don't realize that the contribution that animals are to us, and it's like they rely on us just as much as we rely on them. And to a degree, they want to take care of you and they want to give back to you. And we've found, like with our pigs, for example, Tanya used to ask them which ones wanted to go to the slaughter yards. And we would find that the ones that wanted to go would just be so easy to get on the truck and so easy to move on. And the ones that wouldn't would just be stubborn and
they'd run away. They'd like not want to get on the truck, whereas the other ones would just walk straight up, and you'd be like, oh, okay.
And in the end, we realized that we're exerting so much energy and fighting these animals to get them to the slaughter yards. And we realized, what are we doing? And cats. And we realized that they didn't want to go, and we weren't listening to them. And as soon as we started to function from that space, it was so easy to get these animals into the truck and off to the slaughterhouse. And again, that is so much better for us, because if you put an animal under stress when it's going to the slaughterhouse, it gets all these hormones and adrenalines in its blood system, and then those hormones can taint the taste of the meat. So it has an end effect on the quality of the meat. And it's just a way where you don't need to fight. It can be easy, but it's just about realizing that I'm not ready to go yet.
Yeah, and I guess it's that thing of acknowledging like the consciousness, I guess, of an animal and asking it a question, you know, like, hey, do you want to, is it your time? Do you want to go, or do you want to stay on the farm for a bit?
Yeah. Because it's pretty daunting still if you go to a conventional farm and the way that they put animals on trucks, like they use jiggers. Do you know what jiggers are? They're basically
little electric shocker things.
Oh, yeah.
And they jam them into the pigs and the cows to get them on the trucks. But it doesn't have to be like that. It can be ease, joy, and glory. But it's just a matter of recognizing when they're ready to go. It's just like when we're ready to go, I suppose. Yeah, that's just one of the things. What else, Tim?
I think probably, again, it's just like seeing that everything on the farm for us, well, every animal is always going to be a contribution to you, but also the property. So I think that's probably one thing that we do a little bit different as well. Like we know that everything is contributing to us and it wants to contribute to us. And when they're happy and content, then they contribute more again to the land as well. So
it's about soil too, like being aware of like animals are really connected to the planet and really connected to the earth and all the other planets and that. And it's being aware when an animal is being stubborn or won't move to a different paddock or won't go into the yards when you want it, what's going on. And a lot of the times it's because animals are connected to the moon, the sun, and all the other 8 planets. And those energies affect the animals in a different way. And they might want to be sitting down and taking a break because those energies are streaming into the earth at that time. And cattle are an amazing example of that, Ten, aren't they? Did you want to explain that one?
No.
Because you know how cows still have got 4 stomachs.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they chew their cud. You know when they sit down and om. Have you ever seen cows do that?
Yes.
You have noticed how they do that? Well, most people don't realize that cows do that in sync with the moon.
Right.
So if you try and when they do it on moon rise and moon set. Like most people don't realize that there's a moon rise and a moon set. And cows chew their cud on moon rise and moon set. So if you go and try and move them and interfere with them when they're trying to chew their cud, because that's an important process in their bodies, how they regurgitate in one of the food in one of their stomachs and chew it and get more nutrients out of it.
So if you disturb them during that time, they don't get the full benefit of the nutrients, everything.
Yeah.
And they also are harder to get in and harder to move because they want to lie down and sit down and have a rest and do this. So they're not going to be easy to move at that time.
So what I'm talking about with moon rise is when like it usually happens around, sometimes you look out in the middle of the day and you'll see the moon coming up over the horizon, and it won't be bright and sunny. It's just like the sun coming up. But if you also then notice and look around and see what the animals are doing, you'll notice that a lot of the animals at that time are quiet and relaxed. And it's because the moon's popped up over the horizon and is zooming all that energy into the earth, and it's contributing to them in a way that relaxes them and allows them to chew their cud and get more nutrition out of the food. But the reason I'm saying this is it just gives you the awareness that how connected animals are to everything else and how we're not so connected, would you say?
Not unwilling to be at the moment,
I remember when you told me about the the time of day or like the moon phase to do the mowing, and that I would have to do less mowing if I did it on that moon phase. And I tried it out, and it worked really well. It was like an extra week before I had to mow the paddock again. So, you know, it definitely worked. And there's actually someone who's asked a question, and I know you guys have some really great information about this. So I don't normally, but I might ask it. So someone's asking for certain like information on how to keep certain animals away, like foxes from chickens, for example.
I was like, we have that problem at the moment too. We lost like 9 chooks the other night from one damn fox. But anyway, there are things called peppers.
You can use them on humans too.
So peppers are like a biodynamic method. So what they do is they like get a fox carcass or and they burn it, and then using the ashes, if you spread it around your chook pen, it keeps the foxes away. But I mean, those peppers are they're made like in October, I think, on a certain phase of the moon again. But I think if you look at a lot of the myths and things that they used to do back in the old days, like, you know, how they used to hang crows, like when they'd kill a crow and they'd hang a crow somewhere, and the crows wouldn't come there because the crows felt that energy of death to crows, so they wouldn't come there. So I think that there are things like that are still there. That could help in that way as well.
But you have to have no point of view. So like you have to, well, what a lot of people do is they get roadkill. If you see a fox on the road, you basically pick it up, burn it. You burn it in a pot so you can get all the ash. And then I wouldn't just put the ash around the chook pen. I'd put it around your whole property.
Okay.
And then basically what it is, it's an energetic barrier. So the fox will pick up on that. And it's just like you walking into a room full of angry people. And again, because the animals are so aware of energy, they just pick up on it instantly, and they just stay away. But you've got to have no point of view, because everyone that we've told to do this, that's had a point of view about it, it hasn't worked. It's your energy plus the energy of the fox that contributes to making it work.
Look, I mean, the thing is too, like, I mean, biodynamics is, they have points of view about it as well. So what I'm saying too, with like, there's lots of information, like even if you just burnt it and it's not on a stage of the moon, if you have that intention that that's what you would like it to do, and you ask the question, you know, will this help, or can I burn it tonight? Or like, if we keep in the question about it, it's going to help, and it's going to contribute to stop them. The trouble is we don't seem to be able to find fox. Foxes are so sly that you can't get their pelts to be able to burn them. So, you know, I've heard, you know, doing wheeze around the chicken pen and things like that. There's lots of different things that, you know, you can try. So
I like it. And Lou, who's asking the question, also asked, you know, where do you get this information about like the stages of the moon and stuff like that? And it's, you guys are talking about things that you've learned from biodynamics. Is that right? Yeah. So
if you just send us an email, so that's probably the best way to do it, to send us an email, because biodynamics they don't push it, because
it's a bit out there.
It's a bit out there, and biodynamics doesn't want to be seen as witchcraft and all that sort of stuff. So you'll find it very hard to get information about peppering.
Okay.
And if, like, there's so many different ways where you can potentize it too, but like it'll take us a day to explain all that. So,
yeah.
And I think again, like, if you have that intention, you know, it helps, like, to keep them away. Like, you're putting that energy out that I don't want the foxes here, and they're gonna hopefully stay away.
Yeah. So I mean, as you're talking about this too, like it kind of reminds me again of like this place where, you also being on the land contributes to the land and the animals. And so can you talk to a little bit about some of your interactions with the animals where you've been able to contribute like in a different way that's created a different effect, with the animals on your farm?
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually had sold a horse to Viv Adcock, and I had her in the front paddock waiting for Viv to come and pick her up. And we have like a cattle grid just at the front of our property. And I mean, she'd been there in that paddock heaps of times. And I woke up this one morning and I sort of like looked down there and I thought, what's she doing down there near the grid? And I thought, oh, I better go down and have a look. And she'd got her front legs stuck in the grid. And like, it's so unusual for an animal to do that because they know that they can't. And it was quite funny because I actually spoke to her like you would normally speak to a dog. This was a horse, and I got down there and I was like, what are you doing? And then I said to her, now don't you move, you stay there. And I was like, what am I going to do? Tim wasn't home. And I was thinking, oh, and then I was like, oh, if I can lift her legs up and get it. And I, tried lifting her legs up, but she didn't like that. So I was like, oh, and then I got this board and I was able to put this board on top of the grid to stop it for her legs going in there. And I was able to lift both of her legs out onto this board. And then I stood on the other end of the board so it didn't move. And I was like, now you have to get yourself up. And she was like, okay. And she just got up. But I was like, stay, don't move. And she just did everything that I said. And I was like so amazed that this horse was like listening to me. Like I was talking to her like a dog. I was like, stay there, don't move. And it was quite amazing how just that talking to her and being no nonsense about it and not going into the trauma and drama of it stopped her from, like, she was just standing there, thinking, oh, well, I'm in trouble here. I need someone to help. And I've come along and helped her. And she was like, yeah, we can get out of it together. So it was very interesting talking to her like that. And I was like, wow, that's amazing that actually even worked. But I mean, just things like that, just being able to not go into the trauma of drama of that she was going to break her leg, because that's what could happen. She could have broken her leg. I could have been injured too because she could have been flailing about, but it was just so easy that we could just do it so easy because both of us were like, let's just get you out of here.
Yeah, nice. And is she with Viv now?
I think she's gone to someone else. So yeah,
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think Viv sold her on. So yeah.
Okay. Cool. Well, did you have a story as well, Tim?
Oh, I got so many, Cyril. I don't know where to start. Oh, look, I don't know what to say. Like, it's more so, Cyril, I think the more you become connected to the earth and the more you get the mind chatter out of your head, everything just is synchronized on your farm, wouldn't you say, Tim?
Yeah.
And like you can be going down the paddock and some of the horses will be out on the road and you can just actually put a picture in your head and let them know that they shouldn't be there. And as soon as they see you coming, they pick up on that thought straight away. And it's amazing the amount of times they'll just go straight back in where they came from. Like,
yeah, there's a couple that we've got a couple of girls that we don't know how they get through fences. And it's the most ridiculous thing.
Yeah.
And they see Tim. No, they see Tim because they go, oh, Tim, and they like look at him and they're like, oh, I'm in the wrong spot, and they'll run really fast to where they're supposed to be. Yeah. He's gonna get crazy at me.
They're more like unicorns. They can just like jump over the fence.
Yeah. We don't know how they bloody do it, do we? We're like, how are they getting in? They shouldn't be able to.
Yeah, I think after a while, so it's like you become a part of the farm, and everything's connected, and energetically everything just speaks to you. And if you're willing to listen, it just makes things so much easier. And like, even like we got these king quails on the front lawn and in a cage, and it's like when they run out of water, you don't even have to check it. It's just they scream at you, don't they, Tim?
Yeah.
And energetically you pick up on it, and you just go and fill the water up. You go, oh, there's something wrong with the quails, and you go over there and they've either got no food or no water. And like, there's hundreds of little stories like that where, or even the cows or the pigs in a certain paddock, and you'll get that ping in your head, and you'll go over there and there'll be something wrong in that paddock, or one of the cows will be hurt, or one of the pigs will have a problem, or they'll have no water or something. Or it's even so they'll even let you know when there's a burst pipe, because we've got irrigation run all around our farm, and it's amazing the amount of times where you'll get a ping to go to a certain paddock that the horses are in. You go over there and there'll be a burst water pipe or something like that. So, but it's just allowing those, I wouldn't say voices, it's more so energies to come to you. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's amazing.
It really is. And thank you guys both so much for, you know, taking the time to have a chat. And every time I talk to you, I just want to talk forever, but I know you've probably, you know, got dinner to make and things like that. But thank you so much for being on here. And yeah, you're really inspiring to me, and I'm sure everyone who's watching. And so yeah, thanks so much, guys, and I look forward to talking to you again soon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Sil.
No worries, Sil. Good to talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
Good to
Bye,
see
everyone.
you. I haven't seen you for
You
so
too.
long.
I know.